again, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of 4-Star Chicago Sports. This is the Northside Nine podcast, and I have to kind of explain this title, but first, let's say hi to Kyle. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
Oh, living the dream, thanking God Almighty. My weekend, my couple of days in downtown Chicago are over. My legs hurt, my back is sore. And today I get to watch college basketball. Woohoo! And the Cubs, of course, at 1:20 on Marquee Network.
Thanks, Sean. I get to go to work.
I'm going to come join you today and watch some college basketball and hang out with the boys tonight. Should be a lot of fun. River Street is the place tonight. If you guys want to catch the Final Four, we got Auburn and Florida tipping at 5:09, and we have followed by Duke and Houston, which everyone is saying is the main event. But I think both of these games are main event caliber. Should be a blast tonight. So if you're in the area, 102 North River Street, drop on in. You'll see me. You'll see Kyle. You'll see our Wednesday co-host, Jason. He's going to be there. I think Bruce is going to be in the house. I think we're all going to be hanging out watching some basketball tonight. So stop on in. And speaking of River Street, before we get going, we have our annual draft party coming up. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Our annual draft party coming up on Jesus, I can't even think this morning, on April 24th. And that's going to be at 102 North River Street Tavern. We're going to be out there in full force, raising money for charity, giving away great prizes. We got drink specials. We got all types of things jumping off here. We got some awesome giveaways. I just received the Dan Hampton. I just received this bad boy. I just got this in the mail. We also got this awesome DJ Moore mini helmet autograph that just showed up for your pleasure as well, among with many other prizes, including Cubs tickets. So come on out, 102 North River Street. Of course, we'll have $3 tall boys and half-price chicken wings and a hot dog special that I'm going to get to y'all as soon as we get it. But now, Kyle, what a week that it was. And I want to explain why I said it was a roller coaster first week for the Cubs. I know since the Cubs have been stateside, they are 6-2, should be 7-1. That's part of the roller coaster. We kind of find ourselves not in the same situation that we had with Adbert Azalea last year, but we find ourselves clinging and holding on to that seat tight when Mr. Presley comes into the ball game. He's put a lot of traffic on these bases over the first couple of his first 3 saves, which he is 3 for 3. Now, that takes me back to last year as we started the season. Adbert Azalea blew his first 4 saves in the first 10 games. So this is an improvement of sorts. But when I say roller coaster, again, that's going to go back to that game that we had a 97% chance to win on Sunday, which the Cubs failed miserably at doing, closing that out. All types of traffic on the bases during that game. That night, they went into the bottom of the 8th, 97% chance to win. This is what happened. A walk, fly-out double, home run single, double intentional walk, single, double ground out. Now, the roller coaster part comes in when I say since Sunday, the Cubs bullpen has went 11 2/3 scoreless innings, even though Ryan Presley has had mad traffic on these bases. Kyle, let me know what you think about what we got going on the back end of this bullpen. And we are definitely Cricket Commish. We're going to spend a lot of time on Shota Imanaga in just a moment after Kyle gives us his thought on the back end of the Cubs bullpen. What you got, brother?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say what's up to Trax, CSP, Chicago Sports Podcast in the house, guys. Ant Mass is here, Cricket Commish, Elizabeth, Breaking News, Bruce. We appreciate you guys joining us as always, man. Please feel free to comment. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can here. But yeah, Sean, it's got definitely some similarities to last year a little bit. I mean, obviously, it is an improvement over Adbert Azalea because it's not like Presley's going in there and giving up home runs every single time he steps on the mound. But this guy still has an ERA over 5 on the season. That is not good for a closer. If this was the likes of the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Braves or the Phillies, what they would do is at the trade deadline, before the trade deadline, they would go get an actual closer. This is what now the third season in a row the Cubs have a closer with an ERA over 3. That's pretty rare for a championship caliber team. Most teams have those shutdown best one-inning pitcher guys, the guys who go in there and throw strikes, usually have 2 or 3 strikeouts in every ninth inning. Presley is not that guy. This guy pitches to contact. It's always going to be dramatic. You're always going to be on the edge of your seat if he comes in a game in which the Cubs are up by either 1 or 2 runs. You know, I think he actually got, if I'm not mistaken, think he got to a full count or 3-1 on every single batter that he faced yesterday. So it's not just the inning; it's each bat at bat, one by one, that you can start chewing on your nails a little bit. Definitely not something you want to see, Sean. I think we've talked about it many times on this podcast. At some point, I believe that Porter Hodge is going to be the closer for the Chicago Cubs. I don't see the downfall to making him the closer of the Chicago Cubs. He's one of the youngest pitchers on this team. Why not groom him for that position right now, right? You have control over him for a long time. You know he's cheap. He's going to be here a while. Start grooming him to be the closer for this team and make Presley the setup man. And Sean, as a matter of fact, I've talked about this before. I'll say it again. Once Merriweather is playing full-time, back to playing every other day, I'd like to see it go Merriweather, Morgan, Hodge. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Presley come in games where you got a 3 or 4 run lead. I don't think Presley is built for this. You know what? When Presley was in Houston, he was upset with management. He was upset with the coach because he wanted to close and they didn't want him to close because they went and got Hader. Remember that?
Yep.
When he got traded to the Cubs, he said in an interview, "I'm open to doing whatever this team needs me to do to help the team." Sean, to me, that says that he probably has less faith in himself at this point than he did last year. I mean, why was he so hell-bent on being the closer in Houston? As soon as he got to the Cubs, it's like, I'll do whatever you guys want. Maybe because he knows he's not a closer anymore. Maybe that's what it is. But I'll tell you this, win or loss, like obviously the Cubs won the game yesterday 3-1 and due in part to Presley coming and closing. I do not like the dramatic up and down in that night. It's not fun for me, man. People are like, hey, they won. Who cares? I care. It's starting to when he's throwing a ball to every single batter he faces, the first pitch is a ball, or getting up to 3-1 count. It starts to piss you off a little bit as a Cubs fan, for sure.
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. I was holding on to my seat. I was actually sitting in a parking lot on the way back from the city, having some early dinner as this unfolded, and I looked at my wife and she saw my visible frustration in my face. I'm like, this son of a gun is going to walk and load the bases up. Thank God he struck that guy out because, man, it was a win, but it was a stressful win, man.
Sean, you talk about luck. Cronenworth almost never, ever watches a pitch go down. Is a Cronenworth. He's an aggressive hitter. I cannot believe that's how that at bat ended. I didn't think in a million years. If you would have asked me before that pitch, what's going to happen here, I would never have said Cronenworth's going to watch a pitch go down the middle and strike out. Never in a million years.
Let me ask you this, because I'm reading on X, and a lot of Cub fans are happy. Like I said, they're 6-2 since we've come stateside, but shaky or not, he's 3 for 3 in save opportunities. At the end of the day, he handed San Diego his first loss. Despite the tense moments, he did get the job done. So is it hard to complain? Ride the bull until he bucks you? Or do you think that it's time for Craig Counsell to kind of wake up and say, hey, Porter Hodge right now is at 4.2 innings. He's struck out 6. He's walked 2. He's getting the job done, and it's not that stressful for him. And it's the 8th inning yesterday was not stressful at all. No,
it was not. As a matter of fact, Sean, I thought he should have come back in. Just me personally, I thought for sure Hodge was going to come back in just because he had to get pitched those 2 outs. I'm like, there's no way he's not coming back in the 9th. And then of course they brought in Presley, and I'm like, oh, it's about to get interesting for sure. And it did. They had the tying or the winning run, or the tying run in scoring position, the winning run up to the plate. I mean. How long could Cubs fans deal with this? It happened too much last year. I think it's going to happen again. I think Presley is going to blow some saves here. You can see it. You can feel it as a baseball fan. You know when it's coming. But Sean, you tell me why wouldn't Porter Hodge give me the negatives or the cons to Porter Hodge being your closer?
I don't know, man, because I was saying this yesterday, man. I didn't really give a crap if Presley came out with the save. Just watching him from spring training through the first couple times on the mound, I'm just thinking to myself, there's zero reason why Porter Hodge should not be getting that bump to the closer spot because you watch it. Presley does not look comfortable. He's not locating his pitches. He seems to be all over the place. And whether they say, oh, he's working the counts, he's still getting outs. Like you just said, man. Here, and I'll just put it this way: if this was the Dodgers, which we'll be playing next weekend, and the Cubs were at the top of the ninth, bottom of the ninth,
in a playoff series, and here comes Presley to face Freeman, Betts, and Ohtani. No, hell no. That's what I'm saying. There's two phrases you don't want to hear in the same sentence, which they said on Marquee Network yesterday: Cubs closer and pitches to contact. Those two things you do not want in the same sentence. Like your seventh, eighth, ninth guy, especially in high leverage games when you're talking about 1 or 2 run games, those guys should be almost 3 guaranteed outs unless they have that once in a while bad day. Like those haters, like what's the kid's name on the Baltimore when he's on? That guy is
it Batista?
Yeah, the guy who has he had like a 0.5 ERA for most of the season last year. These are the guys. This is the hater. These are the championship caliber closers. Presley is not that. Presley wasn't that last year, Sean. To be honest with you, I wasn't necessarily ecstatic with the trade when they made it. I'm not saying that I don't think Presley could contribute to this team or he's not a good pitcher. What I'm saying is when they made that trade, I was worried that they were just going to automatically throw him into the closer position because he's always been a closer, because that's what Chicago teams always do. Like, well, we're paying this guy, so he has to play, and we signed this guy for this role, so he has to play this role. Like, no, think outside of the box. Like, look at your lineup. Like, there's absolutely no reason whatsoever why Brendan Merriweather or Porter Hodge should not be the closer on this team. As a matter of fact, if you think Porter Hodge is too young and he can't handle the pressure, I'd still rather see it be Merriweather than Presley. I don't think Presley should be pitching in high leverage situations unless he's like all you got left on the bench and he has to. But I mean, Sean, look at him last year. It's not like Presley was pitching a 1.2 ERA and they came over to the Cubs and has got off to a rough start. No. He wasn't very good last year either.
Yeah, he started losing it in Houston last year, and they picked up on that. That's why they made a move. So again, and I don't want to pick on Porter Hodge or on Jed Hoyer, excuse me, but I when Presley came here, I wasn't that impressed with the deal to begin with because I knew this would affect Porter Hodge becoming the closer, and that's the guy I wanted to be the closer, and this is why.
In there, and Albies gone on strikes.
That's a pretty good way to start your big league career right there.
Ooh. See you later. That's a pretty good start for you, Porter Hodge. Pitch. Down swing, and he strikes out the side. Welcome to the show, Porter Hodge.
He looks the same guy as that debut so far this season.
I think it's who he is, Sean.
Yes.
This is who Porter Hodge is. I mean, you consistently see the 96, 97 MPH. I mean, this is not a fluke. Presley's fastball is hitting 93, 94. I mean, this is the game has changed, guys. At this point in 2025, to be a closer in Major League Baseball, you almost have to throw fire. You almost have to. They almost all of them do, except for the Chicago Cubs. And Sean, you say you don't want to hate on Jed Hoyer, and maybe it's not Jed Hoyer's fault because he's given it a limited amount of spending, but how are the Cubs the only team in baseball that haven't figured out that your closer has to throw 98, 99 miles an hour, and it has to be a guy who does not pitch to contact and gets strikeouts? We're the only team that can't figure that out. I mean, name another team with a championship caliber team with a closer with a 5 ERA. There isn't. It doesn't happen because those teams don't win championships. And Sean, we're the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs should have been involved in all those 3 guys who got signed by the Dodgers, all 3 of those shutdown closers who got signed by the Dodgers, 79 guys. We should have been involved in every. We should have contract talks with every single one of them. We probably didn't even talk to any of them.
Because Tanner Scott would have looked really good in the pinstripes.
That would have been nice. That would have been really nice.
And I'm here with Crooked Commish, man. Like, at some point, if Kyle Tucker is exactly the guy that we all thought he was going to be, you have to make this move. Ricketts has to show that he's somewhat serious. and being competitive in baseball. And that would start by signing the guy that you traded for, who's up to a 308 batting average, 4 home runs, 11 RBIs. I'm sure he's going to lead the club in every statistical category across the board by the end of the season, with maybe the exception of stolen bases. But this is a big.
He's leading the Cubs in stolen bases right now, isn't he? He's like top 1 or 2.
Does he got more than Pete Crow Armstrong?
I believe he does.
He's 3 for 3. Tucker's 3 for 3.
I think PCA only has 2. I think right now Kyle Tucker is leading the Cubs in every statistical category.
Yes, he is. PCA is 2 for 2. Kyle Tucker is 3.
Kyle Tucker is everything that the Cubs wanted to sign. He is everything we were promised he was going to be, and he's everything we watched in Houston. He is a bona fide superstar. There's no doubt about it. That's what makes me think the Cubs are not going to re-sign him, because he's good and he's expensive.
Well, now, as we say this, I want to take a look back at, the Cubs bouncing back. We touched on it a little bit earlier, 11.2 scoreless innings since the bullpen collapsed on Sunday in the desert. And that just, for me, was like shades of last year. I was really nervous. I was really scared. We talked about it a little bit last week. And I have to say, man, you can never, under any circumstances, have your bullpen walk 6 guys in 3 innings. And that's what kind of led to the collapse. And it does seem as though the Cubs bullpen has kind of got it back together. Walks are high right now. Strikeouts are a little bit lower. They're starting to even each other out. And it is only the first 10 games. So we'll see where this continues to go. Hopefully it starts trending in the right way, where we're striking out more than we're walking. Because, again, under no circumstances, when your bullpen comes in, can you allow 6 walks in 3 innings and get that much traffic on these bases? And, we've always bolstered up Eli Morgan. Eli Morgan was the culprit in that game in the desert. We have not seen him on the bump since that day. I hope this isn't an outlier, and I hope that Council regains some faith in him, because based on his career, I think this is more of a blip on the radar than what we regularly would expect. And you touched a little bit on the bullpen and what you expect towards the end, and you expect Eli Morgan to be in that setup role down the road.
No, 100%.
Say if Eli Morgan doesn't get there, and now you have Merriweather, Hodge, or do you go Merriweather, Presley, Hodge, or do you just not trust Presley in any of these high leverage situations to this moment, even though he's 3 for 3 at saves so far this year?
I don't trust anybody with a 5 ERA in any high leverage situation. There's nothing against Presley. I don't dislike Presley as a person, guys. I don't even think Presley's a terrible pitcher. Like I said, I think he can contribute to this team. But Sean, what's really scary about what you talked about there is not just that the Cubs pitching staff's been giving up walks. They're giving up walks to the leadoff hitter. I mean, it's one thing if you have 2 outs and you get into a 3-0 count against the third batter you're facing, and you're like, oh, we got a base open, just put him on there. Better than pitching one down the middle. These guys are walking the first guy in every single inning.
It's not good.
This sooner or later, Sean, it's going to bite the Cubs in the ass. We've seen it happen already this season. We saw it happen a lot last year. At some point, Craig Counsell and Jed Hoyer need to find a way to lock down this bullpen. Sean, once again, here we are as Cubs fans. Like, this team is better than last year. There's no doubt in my mind about that, especially with Kyle Tucker on this team. They are better than last year, because Kyle Tucker is certainly a step up over Cody Bellinger. But once again, Sean, here we are. We are probably 1 power bat, 1 starting pitcher, and 1 dominant bullpen piece away from being a championship caliber team. And it's the Chicago Cubs. We are capable of getting all 3 of those pieces. The Cubs could have gotten all 3 of those pieces in the offseason. They could have traded for Tucker and kept Cody Bellinger here. They could have, like we just talked about, they could have been involved in any of the closers that the Dodgers signed, or those late inning guys. They could have gotten any single one of those guys, and they certainly could have gotten a better pitcher than Matthew Boyd and Colin Ray. The money they spent on those 2 combined, they could have gone out there and got a bona fide starter, or traded for a guy like Dylan Cease. Here we are once again talking about this. This is the Cubs. We shouldn't be talking about this. We should be talking about all the new faces in Chicago, because we have so much money to spend, and we're the 4th most valuable team in Major League Baseball. And then we wouldn't be having, like I said, listen, people can say, oh, it's fun, man. It's fun when Presley goes out there and walks a couple guys, your heart rate starts. Not for me, it's not. I want Presley to go out there and have a 1, 2, 3 inning and strike everybody out. That is what should be happening. I mean, if you watch Shota Imanaga, he made Machado look like he was one of the worst players in baseball yesterday. And then Presley comes in, and this guy is just fighting off every single pitch he throws. At some point, the Cubs are going to have to go either bring somebody up to this bullpen and get those through 2, 3, 4 shutdown guys, or they're going to have to trade for somebody. Because Sean, for me personally, I don't know about you. Correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think this is who Presley is. I think this is who he is.
I do. I think this is who he is too. And that's unfortunate. But again, if you flip him and you get him in the right spot, you might be looking at a guy that you can trust coming out of the bullpen, in a non-high leverage situation.
Oh, sure, of course. If the Cubs are up by 4 runs, put Presley out there. I'm sure he might allow a run, and now you're up by 3. There's no doubt in my mind he's capable of doing that, but not when you're playing the Dodgers and it's 2-1 in the 9th inning. You do not want to put Presley out there. I promise you that.
And I wanted to touch on too, because as you talked about Cody Bellinger and being able to keep Cody Bellinger, when they made that trade, the Cubs, Cody Bellinger, $5 million in cash used on the payroll. They received Poteet, now who's with the Orioles, not even with the organization. $25 million they saved. It was not spent on the ball club. That went back into Tom's bank account. And that could have been spent on one of those quality bats right in the middle. But I'm not going to bag on this lineup too much, because the Cubs, for the most part, since coming back stateside, have had some offensive explosions, starting with the 18-3 win in Oakland, or in Sac Town, excuse me, where Tucker was 4 for 7, 3 RBIs, a home run, 2 doubles, Bush 3 for 6, 4 RBIs, a home run, Swanson 2 for 5, 3 RBIs, a home run, a double. And obviously the big story in that game was our guy, Mr. Carson Kelly.
Insane that's the guy who ends up with
making things happen.
Center field, going back, Blade. It's off the wall. Racing towards second. Go! And he's in.
Mr. Carson Kelly, 331.25.
First cycle since 1993 when Mark Grace did it. Yeah, it's awesome, man. I mean, if you would have put a gun to my head and said, you need to tell me who's going to get the next cycle for the Chicago Cubs, I would be dead, because Carson Kelly is the last man I ever would have picked in a million years. I am so happy for him, man. I like Carson Kelly's personality. I like what he brings to the team. I also like him as a backup catcher. I think everything about that signing was awesome. We talked about this when it happened. We both liked the signing. It was a really good signing for the Cubs. But Sean, even as much as I like the signing, would I ever have picked him to get a cycle? No. And I'll tell you this right now, Sean. Those, unfortunately, the 35 runs they scored against Oakland and Sacramento, there is an asterisk, guys. Listen, I understand both teams play in the same park, but that is an understatement to say a hitter-friendly park. A lot of teams are going to explode in that park this year. A lot. It's not even like the Dodgers are going to they're going to score like 75 runs in 3 games in that park.
Well, Kyle, as we say that though, the Oakland A's, who everyone told me has a dominant lineup, only came away with 9 runs in that series. So is that a kudos to the Cubs pitching? Because there is one guy I want to touch on from the 7-4 victory. We talked about him a little bit. The steel cage, Justin Steele, it was a gutsy effort by him. He gave up 4 runs early through 3 innings pitch. He settled down. He got through 6 2/3. He allowed 7 hits, 4 runs, a walk, and struck out 6. And what you just said is a very tough ballpark. He did help save the bullpen, restored a little order into that game, and the Cubs went late into that ball game, leading 7-4. The bullpen obviously was able to lock it down. Does this performance by Justin Steele, even though it was against Oakland, and I like some players on Oakland, Langoliers is a really good catcher.
I mean, you said people have been saying that, but I don't believe Oakland has a dominant lineup by any means.
Not a dominant lineup, a more competitive lineup.
If I could play Oakland every day, I would be absolutely fine and ecstatic about that. There's no doubt I would take that all day every week. That is not a good baseball team. They're not going to finish with a good record. But yeah, I mean, Sean, anytime your pitcher is not giving up 5 home runs, I mean, just the way that Justin Steele finished training camp and started the season here. I think that's definitely a positive that he only gave up those 4 runs and he ultimately got the win. There's no doubt about it because, man, it looked like it was like falling off the rails for a second. We've never seen that. This is the problem with Justin Steele is everybody should be allowed to have bad days, right? I mean, Justin Steele's been the cornerstone of this rotation for the last 3 years now. He should be allowed to have a bad couple weeks, but we've never seen anything like that.
No,
like, who is this guy? This guy in the last starting spring training, he allowed 10 hits and 3 home runs. I don't think he did that in 2 games back to back last year. So it's just different. And the part that kind of scares me about it, Sean, is it's something all baseball fans should be considering. All of these teams who have signed these pitchers who pitch to contact, Justin Steele's not like it's not like it's Drew Smiley, but he still is a contact pitcher. He's not like a high strikeout pitcher by any means necessary. But these torpedo bats might be changing the league a little bit, Sean. These pitchers who pitch to contact might be in some trouble because people keep telling me, "Oh, this is just a hot streak for these teams. It has nothing to do with the torpedo bats." I don't see how that could possibly be possible. Like how all the teams that are using these torpedo bats just happen to be scoring copious amounts of runs every day. There's no way that the two aren't related in any way, shape, or form. So these pitchers who pitch to contact, it's time for them to now make an adjustment to this bat. I mean, at this point,
did you hear? And I heard this during the broadcast yesterday because even though I was in downtown, I had my headphones on. I was listening to the ball game. They said that Mr. Nico Horner is now using a torpedo bat.
I think they all should, right? I mean, if you can clearly tell that there's some sort of advantage. I mean, did you watch the Yankees in that series last week? I mean, they were hit everything that came their way was leaving the park, and they did it every single game of the series. And then here the Cubs are like, hey, let's sneak some of these torpedo bats in our lineup, and then boom, they explode for 35 runs in Sacramento. Obviously, this is an advantage, and I think baseball needs to start regulating things, Sean. Like if one person's going to use that bat, everybody has to use that bat. If somebody's not allowed, nobody's allowed to use that bat. Like that's the way baseball should be going. I've already talked about this on this podcast before. The fact that the dimensions of every field are completely different is still very strange to me. And I know people are like, that doesn't bother me, but it's just because you're used to it. Like if the NFL came out tomorrow and said, hey, we're going to make a new expansion team and their field's going to be 130 yards long instead of 100 yards long, people would absolutely lose their minds. But then you go to one baseball park where it's 400 to dead center, another one where it's 380, and people are like, that doesn't bother me. Like baseball's rules, Sean, there's still not one word in the rule book, the Major League Baseball rule book, about a check swing. Not one.
Really?
Rule for a check swing. It is literally 100% the umpire's interpretation. So how could you have one game going on in, let's say, Florida, right? And a guy is called out on a check swing, is called out on strikes. And the same exact swing in Chicago, it's considered a check swing. I mean,
Kyle, I will
details here.
I will tell you this. I am following a Major League Baseball site. It's called Umpire Auditor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And during the first week of the season, umpires have missed 1,121 calls, including 44 blown strikeout calls. This is awful.
That's brutal, bro. That is brutal. That's what I'm saying, Sean. You're changing the sport. Listen, you have errors in basketball. You have errors in football. These guys are human beings. There's going to be human error. Unless you have computers start doing this, they're always going to miss some calls, especially in the NFL. It's always muddied up in the middle there. There's probably holding on every single play. It rarely ever gets called, but baseball is to the point where it's completely and entirely changing the outcome of every single game.
It really is.
Unless you're making the same amount of stakes for both teams, which is almost nearly impossible. There's almost no way to do that. You are changing the outcome of the game. And Sean, we've seen it. And you know what? I will say to Presley's defense, as bad as that 5 ERA looks as a closer, he's got screwed more than a couple times.
He actually had a strikeout yesterday that was inside, just on the line of the box. Yep. Yes, and they called it a ball. He should have got that guy out. And that high fastball he threw earlier in the bat, that was also a strike.
You're not giving him down low. You're not giving him up high. So basically you want him to pitch it right down the middle. Like you got to help a guy out, man.
Yeah.
Like listen, and Sean, we've talked about before, if the strike zone is sometimes the strike zone is off, but it's still consistent. You know what I'm saying? Like you'll see that strike, that low strike or that slider hit. You'll see it hit the line on the TV, right? You know what they call like the batter, like the strike zone on TV, and they won't call it. But then they're giving you that strike that's a little bit above the top line, like, you know. And you even heard guys like Nico Horner talk about this. He's like, hey guys, that strike zone on the TV isn't necessarily the true strike zone in baseball. So, but if you're gonna miss calls, miss them consistently.
You know what I do when we have that? I always go to the MLB app and I look inside there because the MLB app strike zone is pretty consistent. And I noticed that a couple of strikes that were strikes on the TV were not strikes on MLB. So I understand Nico Horner's point to that. So if you guys ever want to check, and you can go back and look at games, innings before and stuff like that. Go look at the MLB app because they are pretty accurate with the balls and strikes, and you'll see a difference between the TV and the MLB app. So we do have with all this negativity some really, really good stuff to talk about, and that is our boy Shota Imanaga, who had another impressive performance. Now, for his home opener, Shota in Wrigley home openers now is 13 innings pitched, 13 strikeouts, 6 hits, and 1 earned run. Posted a 28% whiff rate with his splitter and his at 39% and his sweeper at 40%. Now, Imanaga is down to a 272 earned run average so far as a Cubs starter, and the Cubs after yesterday improved to 25-7 when he is on the bump. Let me ask, and we're going to get this started here, because if you go into his stats for this year so far through 3 starts,
amazing.
18 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 0.98 earned run average, 10 strikeouts, 115 batting average against. This guy has been everything that we thought he'd be. And don't forget
he's been better.
We thought he'd be. Don't forget about the 4 scoreless no-hit innings in Japan as well. So, Kyle, I have to say, Shota has definitely been the game changer for the Cubs, you know, that we were hoping he would be. We thought maybe there'd be some regression, but given his impressive contribution so far, his impact on the mound, it's been unbelievable for the Cubs. He's been solid as can be, and this is your showstopper. You're in a losing funk. This guy's going to come out and get you the wins. Do you expect him to continue this performance as the season progresses? And I think you already stated it, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Is it clear and evident thus far he's exceeded all expectations and to be proven to be one of the best signings in recent memory for the Chicago Cubs?
Yeah, guys, get ready because this is going to be a little bit of a rant. I'm going to tell you how much I love Shota Imanaga. So first of all, let me first apologize to Shota Imanaga because if you remember on this podcast before the season started, I said I was worried about Imanaga being a fly ball pitcher at Wrigley Field, and there was a lot of games last year in which the wind was blowing in. Now, listen, I'm not saying things can't fall off the rails, and I hope they don't, but obviously we've seen stuff in sports where you have a guy who's just absolutely amazing, and all of a sudden he has this really bad stretch. But first of all, Sean, I love Justin Steele, right? You know that I think Justin Steele is going to come back and be a dominant pitcher in this league again at some point. Shota is the ace. This is your ace. Shota Imanaga is the Cubs ace. So first of all, let me say that he is much better than I thought he was going to be when the Cubs traded for him, and we heard that he was a guy who pitched to contact, and he wasn't as good as the likes of Yamamoto or whatever his name and Sasaki. These guys coming over here, I think he might be better than them. I think he might be the best of the 3 of them. I mean, Sean, we can keep talking about pitching to contact. We can keep talking about fly ball pitcher, but until that ERA gets up around above 3, which has he ever had an ERA above 3 in major leagues?
I don't think so as of yet.
I don't believe so either. I mean, Sean, until he proves to us that he's not an ace and he's not a guy who was absolutely dominant in baseball. He's a dominant pitcher in baseball. He now has a sub-1 ERA this season. Shota just keeps doing what he does every single time he goes out there, man. You know what? The more I start to watch him, the thing that Shota is amazing at for me personally as a pitcher, especially for a guy who does pitch to contact, his elevation is how he could throw, how high he could throw that the fastball and then drop that slider down or the curveball. Just how he keeps changing the eye level for the hitter. It's almost impossible to hit. And I don't know if you heard did you hear the interview from Justin Turner after the game yesterday when they asked him about Shota?
I was unfortunately with the fam, and I did not catch any post game.
Yeah, so Turner said basically every time Imanaga takes the mound, you have an absolute 100% have a chance to win. You just have to score a couple of runs, you're going to win that game. And he's like, I've seen him now as a Cub, as a teammate, and I've seen the opposite side of it. And it's just how he changes the elevation. It's almost impossible to know where he's going with that ball. And the ball, in Turner also said, the ball, you could never know what he's throwing when it's coming out of his hand. It looks exactly the same coming out of his hand every single time he throws it. This guy is a bona fide superstar in Major League Baseball, guys. He is 100%. Shota Imanaga, this is who he is. You can't go a year and a month now and be like, yeah, but eventually it's going to fall. I mean, this is who he is. He's had only a couple bad games in his Major League career so far throughout this year and a month. This is who he is. I think that Shota is going to be the type of guy who allows 1, 2, 3 runs for the rest of his career until he gets to the point where how old is Shota now, Sean?
I don't know. He's a little bit older.
Yeah, Bruce, if you could look that up for us. I mean, at some point, Father Time will probably slow Shota down a little bit, but right now, Sean, for the guy, I think he has probably gotten better in the major leagues than he was in Japan. I think he loves pitching over here. And people were like, he's going to struggle in the majors because he pitches to fly ball. He's 31.
He's 31.
He is the best Cub. Him and Kyle Tucker are absolutely 100% the two most dominant players on the Cubs. Not even a question about it.
You know what was really impressive yesterday was they were saying coming into yesterday that the Padres have struck out the least amount of any baseball team on the season. And he had 1 strikeout going into, I believe, the 6th inning. And he wound up with 4. He struck out 3 of the last 6 hitters that he faced. And he looked stronger at the end of the game. And last year, we thought that was going to be a fatigue issue because he'd never pitched this many innings. Now, and if you look at these numbers down here, his first start against Arizona, he threw 91 pitches, 63 Ks. You go into yesterday's game, he threw 91 pitches again, 68 Ks. So he threw 5 more strikes. He's becoming more efficient. He's keeping the traffic off the bases. He did make that mistake high to Maldonado that I still can't believe went out with the wind blowing in. I mean, he had to absolutely crush that ball. No wind. It's probably might be out of the ballpark, even though it just made it into the fence. But that wind was blowing in, I think, 15 miles per hour yesterday. And Maldonado just got it into the basket. But nonetheless, he looked stronger at the end. And for me, that was the most impressive thing I took away, that he was actually getting whiffs towards the end of the game, more so opposed to the beginning of the game.
Well, and for a guy who pitches to contact and is considered a fly ball pitcher, he does rack up strikeouts. And so there's some games where he throws a lot of swing and miss stuff. But Sean, I mean, like I said, he's a fly ball pitcher, so he's going to allow home runs, right? You're going to see home runs from time to time, but he just doesn't allow that many. Like, people keep talking about him like at some point it's going to fall through. There's just going to be home runs flying out of the park every time Shota's on the mound. That's never happened. It's not happening. So I don't understand where this is coming from. I was just my mistake was I was making it my opinion based off of what I heard when he was coming over to the major leagues. All the talk about him when he was coming over to the major leagues, people are like, yeah, he's a fly ball pitcher. Definitely not as good as Yamamoto. Definitely not as good as Sasaki. Definitely a good pitcher in Japan. Should be okay in the majors. He looks like a bona fide ace to me. I mean, until he proves otherwise, until he starts getting just crushed in every single start he pitches in, I believe Shota is the real deal, and he is 100% an ace. And I think any team in Major League Baseball would love to have him.
Yeah, and Sasaki isn't having some of that sustained success starting in the major leagues stateside. And he looked a little shaky versus the Cubs in Japan as well, giving up some walks. So Roki, I think it will be fine, but much like his counterpart Yamamoto, who had a little bit of a time with the transition last year, I think you'll see him get more comfortable. The one thing I will take away from yesterday was the Dodgers did finally get their first loss of the season, and the pregame interview.
Another asterisk, Sean.
Well, the pregame interview with Bryce Harper, though, was pretty impressive when they asked him, about everyone crying about what the Dodgers did. And his answer was, crying is for losers. And then they went out and they beat the Dodgers. And I didn't see any highlights yesterday. So I don't know what the asterisk is. Maybe you can explain that because I was out with the fan bam. I only got to listen to the Cubbies.
Yeah,
So,
guys. Freddie Freeman.
really quick, Cricket Commish. The Cubs game will be on this afternoon. I will be watching them. I'm finally back home. I can sit down and watch the ball game.
Yeah, Freddie Freeman is hurt, guys. He's going to be out for a while. They're saying it might be a long while, actually. And he slipped in his bathtub at home and sprained his ankle. They're saying it's probably high ankle sprain. So he's probably going to miss somewhere around a month. And in baseball, guys, it's different than most sports. It's not like the NFL where they're rushing you back. In baseball, there's 162 games. Like if they think there's any chance at all that ankle is not healed, he's not going to play. And he's probably going to be out for somewhere around 3 weeks a month. So, yeah, I mean, for me personally, Sean, I still think he's their most consistent player. He may not be the best player in the Dodgers, but I still think he's the most consistent player in the Dodgers. So, yeah, that's a huge loss for them. So I guess there's a little bit of an asterisk there, but every team's going to deal with injuries, right? Every single team's going to deal with injuries. I'm not saying that the Phillies didn't deserve that win because Freddie Freeman's hurt. It's just a lot easier to play the Dodgers when that guy's not standing at first base for me personally. But yeah, I loved everything about that interview. He's like, hey, listen, there's no excuses. The baseball is what it is. These teams are allowed to spend as much money as they want. That's what it is. The Dodgers went out and did it. Yeah. They're the ones who are signing all these players. There's no excuses. When you go out there, you have to beat them. You have to beat the team across from you. I love Bryce Harper. Another thing I want to say about Imanaga real quick, Sean, is I don't know how much you get a chance to watch the Dodgers, Sean, but if you watch Yamamoto and you watch Sasaki, they look very tense to me. They look like every pitch is like the ninth inning, 2 outs, the bases loaded, and they're up by 2 runs. They look very tense, nervous. Imanaga just looks like he's having fun. He just looks like he's having a day at the ballpark, man. He's just out there pitching with his buddies. Like he never looks tense to me. He always looks loose. He always looks like he knows exactly what he's doing in the next pitch. He never looks nervous. Those guys do. I don't know if but aren't the crowds in Japan bigger? Isn't there more people in Japan?
Maybe it's the pressure of being on the Dodgers. Maybe there's no pressure to win in Chicago.
Or maybe this is who they were in Japan, and I never got to see them in Japan. So I don't know. Maybe they were always just those guys who have that very tense look on their face and they look kind of tight. But Imanaga, it looks loose and happy, and it doesn't look like anything in the world could possibly bother him. You even see the games where Imanaga last year where he was having like a bad outing. And a bad outing for Imanaga is not that bad, but he still has a smile on his face. He's like, guys, at the end of the day, it's baseball. I'm doing my job. Imanaga, if the Cubs would have scored more runs last year, he should have won what? How many games should he have won last year? What, 18?
Imanaga?
If the Cubs could score runs last year, he would have won what, 18 games? I mean, this guy
the Cubs are 27 and what did I say? 27 and 5 in his starts.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, but he didn't
25 and 7. 25.
But he doesn't always get the win, obviously. That's just, I still don't like the way that Major League Baseball does wins for pitchers, but that's a whole different conversation for a different day. But yeah, I mean, Sean, he's just a consummate professional and he makes baseball fun to watch. I love Imanaga. I love everything about him. I love his body language. I love his celebrations after getting a huge strikeout or a big out. Everything about him. Watching him pitch is like watching an art. It really is. It's like watching an art.
Acclimating to Chicago very, very nicely. I mean, this guy, he's sucked up the Chicago culture and just kind of supplanted himself as kind of, and I don't want to call him an icon yet, but it kind of feels in his short time here, he's kind of becoming a Chicago cornerstone. I guess.
Ron, if you get rid of Kyle Tucker, if Kyle Tucker was on the Cubs, who is the face of the organization? It's Shota Imanaga. It's Shota.
They would say that. They would probably try and push PCA or Dansby Swanson or something.
I think it would be Ian Happ. For some, there's
correct.
Huge love for Ian Happ in Chicago. Listen, I'm not saying Ian Happ's not a good player. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole either. But
that rabbit hole.
we could talk about this lineup and their batting averages and what they've done so far in the season. And we could talk about Happ a little bit. But for me, Sean, Shota Imanaga is the best Cub besides Kyle Tucker. And Kyle Tucker's a superstar. So I mean,
the thing for me too is, and I wanted to talk about this when we talked about the Carson Kelly love, because I do love that Carson Kelly is finding some success here. We've had some backup catcher success here over the past couple of years, but I don't know if this is stunting the growth of Miguel Amaya, because he started off on a tear. Then, he hit the cycle. He gets 2 days off in a row. Then he comes back. He looked awful yesterday, but he hadn't played for a couple of days. I don't want to get swept up in this Carson Kelly business and ruin the development of Miguel Amaya. I don't like seeing him sit out 2 days. I understand riding the hot hand, and that was great that he had a cycle and he had a fantastic ball game. But I don't want to see Miguel Amaya sitting day after day after day like this for a backup catcher. I don't know where you stand on this, but honestly, I'm going to use a word here. It pisses me off when I see this, and it will continue. I don't care that Carson Kelly's batting 500 on the season. We know ultimately where Carson Kelly's going to end up on the season and what Carson Kelly is. I want more starts and more regular play out of Miguel Amaya. I don't know where you stand on that, Kyle.
No, Sean, I agree. I mean, you should be thinking of the Cubs are not going to win a World Series this year. I'm sorry, guys. They're just not. Unless everybody on the Dodgers gets hurt, everybody in the Braves gets hurt. Like, they're not going to win a World Series. They don't have the pitching to do so. So at this point, you should be thinking about the future, correct? You should be thinking about a way to extend Kyle Tucker, and you should be thinking about getting these young guys as many at-bats as you possibly can. I like Carson Kelly a lot. And Sean, this is the third catcher in a row the Cubs have signed who are they are getting way more than they ever expected out of. I mean, you saw it with David Ross. That guy had one of his best offensive seasons ever at like 40 years old on the Cubs. Then it happened with Yan Gomes, his first season in Chicago. I'm like, what Yan Gomes is this?
You mean Yanni Bench?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden they signed Carson Kelly, like, oh, we'll sign this backup catcher. He's good at as a defensive catcher. And then he comes in and this guy's hitting like 500. I'm like, what's going on here? But yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, those numbers are going to even out. You're going to see the Carson Kelly that's been the Carson Kelly in baseball for the last 5 years. And you want to see if Amaya could be somebody special, a guy who can average or from anywhere from 260 to 280, somewhere around there, which is great for a catcher. It's great to have that in your lineup. And I mean, he's still at 250, Sean. Even you said he's had a few bad games since he was on fire. He's still at 250 average. I mean, he could bring. He has a good game today. He brings that back up to 270. I think Miguel Amaya, PCA, and Matt Shaw should be playing as much as they possibly can because that is the future of the Chicago Cubs. These are the guys who are going to be here if they don't sign a guy like Kyle Tucker. These are the guys who the Cubs are going to be leaning on.
Well, I will tell you this. Since coming back stateside, as you speak of Mr. Matthew Shaw, since returning stateside, crossing the Pacific, he's hitting 240, on base 367, slugging 400, OPS 767. His walks are up to 16.7. His K rate's still a little high at 23.3, but he has a 125 WRC plus. So Matt Shaw's starting to get a little bit. You're going to see these ups and downs, and I get that, but I'm with you 100%. I want to see Shaw. I want to see Amaya. I want to see PCA, who is struggling mightily to start the season at a 179 clip.
Yeah, PCA has been very it's the thing that's disappointing about PCA is not necessarily the struggle in the start. It's the fact that his swing looks more like it did in the beginning of last season than it did at the end. And when he changed his stance, his batting stance, that's when he started to hit really well. He's starting to do that thing where, Sean, you noticed at the beginning of the year last year. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but when he swings, he almost steps onto he has like a little follow-up step. And he was doing that at the beginning of the year last year. Like he's putting everything into his swing and he's swinging so hard he's not really seeing the ball. He's doing the same thing again. But
straight up.
One thing I want to talk about with the Cubs and Matt Shaw in particular, but the team as well. The Cubs are doing exactly what we expected them to do, correct? So they lost to the Dodgers. I consider those road games. Whether people want to, you can say whatever you want about them. They lost the Dodgers, to be expected, right? The best team in baseball. Then they split with a really good team in the Diamondbacks on the road, which we talked about, right? You got to go 500 on the road against good teams. And then they went to Oakland and swept a really bad team. And then they had this game against the Padres they won, but it was like on the edge of your seat, not much hitting, not much offense. They are exactly who we thought they were. And the same with Matt Shaw. Sean, we talked about it on this podcast. If that guy hits 250 and around 14, 15, 16 home runs, that's a really good rookie season for Matt Shaw. And you could tell that he's getting more comfortable at third base as well. If you watch him, he's getting
flashing the weather.
Yeah, and it's just a flow. There's not like, he doesn't have that hesitation when he throws to first. He's starting to fine tune all those details at third base. I like Matt Shaw. I think he's going to be a really, really good player for the Cubs, and I am ecstatic with what I've seen so far. I know there's a lot of Cubs fans who are like, "What have you done for your late me?" They want instant satisfaction. Listen, Major League Baseball is what it is. It takes a long, long time for these guys to come along. I think Matt Shaw has handled himself very well at the Major League level, and I think it's going to get better.
Hey, Crooked, if you want to get a watch party, we can definitely get that together. And if you want to hop on and talk Cubs with us on a Saturday, hit us up and we'll get you on the show with us, man. We'd love to have you on. So just let us know, man. We bring you in, talk some Cubs baseball. It'd be fantastic. Anything else from this week in the past before we move to the week ahead?
No, Sean, like I just said, I mean, this is pretty much, if you would ask me how these games up to what they've played so far went, this is about where I would have put them, around 6-4. I mean, you're not going to go to the Diamondbacks in their home opening series and sweep them, right? And you're right, Sean, the Cubs should have one more win on their record, but every team has blown saves. Every team has those bad games. Even the Dodgers have games where they're winning by 3 runs in the 7th inning and they end up losing. It happens to everybody. This is what I expected from the Cubs. I think they're a team that is really good. They're just not great.
Yeah, and for me, I am on the boat of saying that I really am happy with where the Cubs are. I think they're hitting for slug. I think they've showed some great ability, much better than last year so far on the base pads, where they were the highest rated team of being thrown out on the base pads. I think that has really, really improved thus far through 10 games this season. And on top of that, I think out of these 15 additions that the Cubs made, there's 15 new players on this roster. I think that they're going to be okay. I think this is a team that's going to consistently get better. I'm liking what I'm seeing. I want them to figure out this bullpen, because right now, I will say this, as much as I'm saying I like the direction, I'm going to be holding on to my seat in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings when we have a 1-run lead right now. That's for sure. Holding my bated breath, especially if Presley's coming into this ball game.
There are 2 really good things about this team and the position they've put themselves in. First of all, they signed Craig Counsell. Obviously, we know he's one of the highest paid managers in baseball now, but this is a guy who's known for figuring out bullpens. I mean, this is what he did in Milwaukee. He got the most out of some of these pitchers that we never heard of before. He just finds a way to get the most out of these guys. I think if they can somehow get him one more pitcher, whether it be through the minor league system or through via trade, I think you're talking about a really good bullpen here, Sean. I like Merriweather a lot. I like Porter Hodge a lot. And I know Eli Morgan had I know he had that bad game, guys. Listen,
yeah, I'm okay with
everybody has a bad game. If you look at him in totality, you look at his last year and how he's been so far this year, don't look in too much of the ERA, because for the most part, Eli Morgan has been a really good pitcher for the last year and a half. So I expect him to be that guy going forward. Another thing the Cubs did, they didn't just go sign for Kyle Tucker and get a superstar. It's not like you just traded for Kyle Tucker and you're just getting the what Kyle Tucker brings. He's one of those guys that seems to me when he's in the lineup, it challenges other players around him, other guys in the lineup to be better. And I think you're going to start to see some kind of like a competition between him and Seiya Suzuki. Like when you have those teams, inter team competitions, like who can hit the most home runs, who can hit the most doubles. I think this is what Kyle Tucker brings to this team. It's just a presence. It's like everybody feels like they kind of have to match that intensity that Kyle Tucker brings here. And listen, I understand Seiya Suzuki's not hitting for the average we want him. We want him to be around that 270, 280 mark. That's what we were kind of promised when he was coming here from Japan. But Seiya Suzuki looks like he's going to have a really good season as well. This is exactly what we needed from him. He needs to hit for power. They need that power bat. Seiya Suzuki has to be that guy. He's your DH now.
I will tell you this, man. Bruce, breaking news here. Bruce says they just announced the starting lineups today, and Carson Kelly will be catching for Matthew Boyd. I don't like this, man. And look, man, I understand this, but I don't like Miguel Amaya being off 3 days a week, and that's kind of what's happening so far. It's pretty discouraging for me. I'm a little pissed. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I just don't know what they're doing. It almost seems like they brought Carson Kelly here to be the starter, and Amaya is going to start taking that reserve catcher role, which I don't understand, because once again, Sean, it's the same thing we talked about with Porter Hodge and Presley. You want the youth. The youth is the guy who's going to be here next year and the year after that and the year after that. Right. So you need to figure out what you got in Miguel Amaya right now, because there's a guy named Ballesteros in the minors right now who could probably supplant both of them at some point. Yeah. So you want to figure out what you got in Amaya. Is this guy a good average player, a good player, a star, a superstar? There's only one way to find out. And like I said, you're winning games with him play. It's not like the Cubs are like, well, if we put Amaya in, then we might sacrifice a win. No, you're not. He's been very good for in terms of those young players you've been talking about, PCA, Matt Shaw, Miguel Amaya. So far through the season, I know it's very, very small sample size, guys, but he has been the most consistent of the three. PCA is off to an absolutely abysmal start.
I know. He's hitting 179. Hopefully, I did hear that he's working with Justin Turner in the cage every day. That's really a good guy that I'd like. I mean, he's had a great MLB career.
Another great signing just another guy who could be basically a player coach on the bench. Yeah. I love Justin Turner. Justin Turner is everything that you want out of a veteran who's not going to play every day. He is everything you want out of that guy.
Enough to a 3-for-11 start in 273 and came up with a big hit yesterday.
Yeah, really the only big hit the Cubs had yesterday.
And to your point, Kyle, Seiya Suzuki did have that line drive out yesterday, but it was an absolute smash. It was the hardest hit ball in the lineup of either team yesterday was Seiya's line out. So even though he's making outs, he's tattooing the ball. And one other note from yesterday's game, I believe out of the hitters through 7 1/3 innings that Seiya walked or pitched, he only got to 3-ball count twice. So, and that's also something else you want to see out of your starter.
Maybe Presley was trying to switch it up, hey, I'm going to go to 3-ball count every at bat. We got to switch it up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, as we move forward, we're going to have a tough week ahead. The Texas Rangers will be coming to town. They currently lead the AL West with a 6-2 record. They started off against Boston. Took 2 out of 3, or 3 out of 4 from Boston, excuse me. Then went in against the Reds and took 2 out of 3 against the Reds. They're currently involved in a series with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, which they won yesterday afternoon, 5-2. They will have 2 more at home before they head to the north side of Chicago. We have some pitching matchups here for you. As you see, Monday at 6:40, we have Justin Steele back on the hill. Tuesday, we got Tyon and Evaldi. And then Wednesday, to wrap it up, our guy Shota versus Tyler Melee. Is that how you say his last name?
I think it's Mole. But
Mole. So this is interesting because the Cubs will then have a day off, and then Mr. Michael Boyd will open against Tyler Glasnow in Chavez Ravine in LA, and we will be here next weekend to break that series down. Maybe Crooked Commish will be with us to break that down as well. But yes, this is going to be an interesting week. 6 tough ball games for the Chicago Cubs. Yeah. Especially against this Texas Rangers club, who is starting off the season with, they were expected to win the division, and they're off to a 6-2 start. So coming in, Patrick Corbin has given the Cubs many problems in the past, being this Devil Rays pitcher that he was for many of years. Finished last year with almost a 6 earned run average, so hopefully the Cubs can get to him. Nathan Eovaldi is 37, still can pitch. He's a pitcher's pitcher, knows how to pitch.
He's on.
Yeah. And then Mole, you get what you get. I expect Shota to shut them down and keep the Cubs at least in that ball game to close up that series. What do you think of this series? And then head into Chavez Ravine, where Michael Boyd will open against Tyler Glasnow on Saturday. Or Friday.
Yeah, Sean, they still got 2 tough games here. I mean, the Padres
against San Diego, correct?
Yeah, I mean,
I forgot to bring up the San Diego games. My bad.
Yeah, I mean, that was their first loss yesterday. For the Cubs fans who don't know that, the Cubs handed the Padres their first loss yesterday. But yeah, Sean, we talked about this ad nauseum the first 4 or 5 of Northside 9 podcasts. This is going to be a brutal April for the Cubs. Like we talked about, they just have to keep going 500 against these teams. That's the goal. You can't expect to go out there and sweep the Dodgers and the Rangers and the Padres. You got to go 500. If I was a betting man, just with the ebbs and flows in baseball, I would probably take the Padres to win today. But at the The other side of me is like, yeah, but the Cubs didn't hit much yesterday. So if they're going to continue the streak where they have a slow game offensively, and then the next 2 games they explode, maybe they'll outscore the Padres today. But yeah, it's going to be an absolutely brutal month of April. This is one of the toughest stretches I've ever seen as a Cubs fan.
Yeah.
At least in recent memory. I don't remember the last time the Cubs had such a tough schedule in 1 month, but it's good to get out of the way early. And I do expect the Cubs to continue to get better as the season goes on. Like you've talked about many times, Sean, Craig Counsell is still trying to figure this thing out. All he can do is take the pieces he's been given and make the most of them. I don't think he was given a fair shot last year. I still don't think they gave him enough in the bullpen this year. I still think they're starting pitcher short, but this is a team I expect to be highly competitive for the rest of the season. And I think they're going to give teams like the Dodgers headaches for sure. I think there's other teams the Dodgers would much rather play. And another good thing for the Cubs is, Sean, let's face it. I mean, they're 6-4 and they're leading their division. This is not the best division in baseball by any means necessary. As long as the Cubs can stay consistent and don't come out of April 10 games back or 10 games below 500, they'll be all right. They're going to be okay.
The road gets a lot easier. And sorry, guys, I did forget to load up the San Diego series in here to talk about that. The Cubs are probably going to face one of their toughest pitchers over the next week today, and Nick Pivetta. Nick Pivetta is an absolute stud muffin, and he is going – yeah, the Cubs are going to have their work cut out for them today. The good thing for the Cubbies is we did get to miss Dylan Cease in the series, as they will then wrap it up on Sunday with, I believe, a Kyle. I think this guy is a rookie, and his name is Kyle Hart, if I'm not mistaken. It is.
Oh, Sean, and another good thing the Cubs got going for them is, I think once again, baseball, it always evens out, right? You always get these numbers pretty much stay consistent. But through one start this season, Matthew Boyd looked really good. He looked really, really good. I'm his biggest fan. You know that. I don't think he's worth $29 million for 2 years, but he went out there and pitched zeros his last start. So if he could do that again today, it's going to come down to the bullpen.
Let me ask you this, because we saw Ben Brown in his first started 318, actually came in on 318 after Shota. When 0-1, he took the loss in that game. Two innings, 2 2/3, 4 hits, 2 earned, 5 strikeouts. Bounced back on 331 after winning the 5th starter role. Pitched 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 5 strikeouts. He looked pretty good. Did look like he didn't have some control. Still a young pitcher learning how to use his arsenal in the big leagues. Did you like what you saw out of Ben Brown? And do you trust him? Because he's going to be closing out this series against the Padres.
Sean, I love Ben Brown, and I love the potential even more. Here's my only problem with Ben Brown is if he cannot add a third pitch, if Ben Brown can't find a way to add a third pitch, he's not going to be able to pitch through the lineup for the third time around. It's not going to happen. He can't do it because these guys are going to start to figure out these 2 pitches. So basically what Ben Brown is doing is he's fooling you based off what you think he's going to hit for the first 2 innings. But then when it gets for the first 2 times through the order, when it gets the 3rd time through the order, man, they've seen everything he has to offer. Ben Brown at some point in his career, and maybe it doesn't have to be this year, guys. He's still young. He's got plenty of time, but he needs to add a third pitch to his arsenal. He absolutely has to. He has to. In today's day and age, unless you're throwing 105 miles an hour, like Aroldis Chapman, where you're basically throwing it down the middle and saying, hit it, I dare you. You have to have at least 3 pitches, especially as a starter when you're facing the batting order multiple times. You have to have 3 pitches. Now, listen, I'm not taking away anything from Ben Brown. I thought he looked very sharp the other day. Yeah. And for your 5th starter to allow 3 runs, that's basically what you expect, right? That's still considered a quality start if you can win that game or if you can get through 6 innings. But yeah, at some point, Sean, Ben Brown has to add that third pitch. He has to. And I know they talked about how he was working on it in the spring training, but I didn't see any of that in that game.
No, not in the first one.
At some point, you'd like to see that. You'd like to see them start, even if he just sprinkles it in here. Maybe throw 10 pitches, off-speed pitches that you've never thrown before and try to work on them, fine. But at some point, he has to add a third pitch. No doubt about it.
I will say this. I want to answer Crooked Commish. They did bounce Assad back. He was supposed to be activated April 10th, which would have been 5 days. The latest report I saw on Javier Assad was April 20th with that oblique injury. I do expect him to get worked in, stretched out, maybe not come back right away into the starting rotation, but definitely, pick up that 6th, 7th inning for a little bit. And I do believe if Ben Brown falters at all, I think you will see Assad jump into that 5th role.
I would like to see Assad stay in the bullpen, Sean. I think Assad could be an absolutely amazing piece to this bullpen. I really do. I think this is kind of what they were, what they could do with Assad is kind of what they were trying to do with Edward Elsley. I think you get Assad to the point where you're like, hey, listen, we're not expecting 50 pitches out of you. We're expecting 12. We need you to go out there and get 3 outs. And I think if Assad gives you his best stuff for 1 inning, he could be pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. Problem with Assad is he's another one of those guys who, once he gets through the batting order multiple times, they start to get him in trouble. Now, Assad's very good at getting out of trouble, but you don't want to see it. Whether he's getting out of it or not, you don't want to see a bunch of guys walk on the base paths. Now, if Assad could be that 1-2 inning pitcher, Sean, I think he could be a very dominant player. I think he would be great for the Cubs bullpen right now.
Because if you do remember last year, he did get into a little bit of trouble, the 2nd and 3rd time, and he was only getting through 5 innings last year.
Yeah,
and
that's what he is.
And again, this is what it's 10 games in. I use the word roller coaster again because it more had to do with the fluctuation and stuff that happened from Japan and Arizona. Because as I stated earlier, since Sunday, the bullpen has went 11 2/3 scoreless innings, looked a lot better. The back end seems to be shoring itself up with the shaky, bumpy rides of Ryan Presley. but that's to be expected. I guess for right now, I still think as the injuries, start to heal up, you still have Jordan Wicks. Jordan Wicks, I looked him up. He had a rough outing, his first outing down in AAA. The one guy I did want to touch on who made his season debut this past week was Cade Horton. And he looked really good. A little inconsistent around the strike zone. He pitched 3 1/3, gave up 1 hit, 0 runs, struck out 6. He did walk 4. He had 14 swings and misses. His fastball touched 97.8. He did look a little electric, but he does have to clean up that control. But if he does, which I do believe he will, I do think that we could see this guy in Wrigley come June, maybe?
I mean, how big would that be if the Cubs just out of nowhere, like the rest of baseball, these teams like the Dodgers and Padres are like, oh, this is who the Cubs are. They're pretty good, but there's definitely some weaknesses there, some weak links. And then all of a sudden, 2 months from now, Cade Horton comes in and is pitching to zeros. I mean, this is a totally different team, Sean. This becomes a completely different baseball team if Cade Horton come up here and be kind of like an ace type pitcher. And, he's probably going to start in the bullpen. That would be my assumption. Maybe one of those long inning relievers. But once they feel comfortable with him, I mean, this was the guy they drafted to be their ace. That's what he was supposed to be. Now, unless something's changed, which I don't believe it has, I still expect him to be one of the best pitchers in the lineup. So if they can get him up here this year, with now Kyle Tucker in this lineup, and you can get Cade Horton in this rotation with Imanaga and Steele, and then you can maybe a guy like Jordan Wicks has a really good year, a guy like Matthew Boyd has a really good year, or Ben Brown adds that 3rd pitch. Now you're talking about a completely different team. Now you're talking about a team that if you get in the playoffs, you do not want to play. You absolutely 100% do not want to play. Cade Horton is so crucial and so important to the future of the Chicago Cubs, especially for a team that we know they have now proven to us, Sean. And I hate to be the Debbie Downer and the pessimist. Everybody gets mad when I talk about this stuff, but they have proven to us, Sean, the Ricketts family, that they're not going to go spend a bunch of money on this team. We're not going to go get Max Fried. That's not going to happen. We're just not. The Cubs aren't that team. They're not going to do it. So they're going to have to win a championship through the farm system. And I believe Cade Horton has to be the crown jewel of that farm system. You drafted. I mean, we saw what he did in the college national championship, the World Series championship. When he's on, he's as dominant as they come. And I think he can be the best pitcher on the Cubs if he looks anything like he did at the collegiate level in the major leagues. He is going to be their true ace at some point. So yeah, if that can happen this year, Sean, was he projected to come out in 2025? Was that his projection?
He was. I think he was projected to come up at the end of last season, and then he got that oblique injury that ended his season. So then he never, made it up. But I do think that they do have thought of him coming up at some point this year. I think they went into the season thinking that. From
hopefully-
what I understand and what I've read.
I just hope it's before they expand the roster, Sean, because I'm so sick of the Cubs doing this thing. We're like, well, if we bring them up too early, then we lose that last year of arbitration. Like, guys, you want to win championships. That's the goal, right? Win championships. So get this kid going as fast as you possibly can. The Cubs need to look towards the future. And
Yeah,
one of these shows doesn't have to be today, Sean, but we really need to talk about Kyle Tucker in this extension because it's scary.
Yeah,
the more amazing he looks and the more expensive he gets, the more the Cubs stand no chance of re-signing him or extending him in any way, shape, or form. So I hope that the Cubs are making plans, freeing up salary cap, doing something to try to find a way to keep this guy in Chicago. I mean, they're going to absolutely tear Cubs fans' hearts out of their chest if they watch this guy absolutely explode on the north side, and then the very next year he's gone. There will be a lot of disappointed, disheartened Cubs fans for sure, and I will be one of them.
I will say this.
There's what Brennan says, Sean. Tucker's gone.
There's one more guy that I think could be effective for the Chicago Cubs. Coming off that Tommy John surgery in 2022, he took all of 23 to recover. He came back last year. He has a fastball, sweeper, cutter, sinker. His sinker hits 92. His fastball is in the range of 92, 93. His slider average is about 81. His sweeper is about 81. And this is my guy, Ethan Roberts. I still think that this guy could be a quality piece to this bullpen. I have not looked up his numbers in AAA. For me, it's a little bit too early to start getting into too much AAA numbers and stuff. Most of these guys have either been in an inning or 2 or 3 thus far. But as the season continues to progress over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to keep an eye on him because I liked Ethan Roberts before the Tommy John surgery, and I like him. I still hope. I'm hoping that he can make a comeback after everything because he went through shoulder problem, Tommy John. I mean, he's had a lot of problems.
So cautiously optimistic, but I mean, if you look at the Cubs minor league team, there's a couple of pitchers that not many people are talking about who seem to me like they're going to be very good pitchers in baseball. Yeah. And listen, we know that what's the kid's name who throws 100 miles an hour? He had an injury last year. Right before he had that injury, they were talking about how he probably could come up here. At one point, he played a position as well in college. He was kind of a two-way player. That guy, I don't know.
Mike Arias. Arias. God, I can't believe his first name. Yeah, it's Arias. He's a converted shortstop to a pitcher.
He's not the one who got traded, was he? Arias didn't get traded.
Did he get traded?
There's one that didn't get traded. I have to find his name, but there's a couple guys down there, Sean, right now who look like they can make an impact for this team at some point soon. 100%.
The Cubs, he's in the Blue Jays organization. Yeah, was.
That's not the guy I was talking about, though. I think his name's Nazir. Like Naz.
Not Frank Nazir.
Yeah, that's the problem is every time I try to think of his name, I just think of Frank Nazir on the Blackhawks. But
I actually have like 900 of his baseball. Nazir Mule.
That I think at some point he could be special for the Cubs as well. You guys are definitely this year going to see some players brought up from the minor leagues. It's going to be different than you have in years past. They are definitely going to start digging in this farm system. A lot of these guys in the years past they've been talking about, their projected MLB debut was 2025. I expect to see some of these guys this year. You certainly should see Kate Horton at some point this year in some way, in some spectrum. I'm not saying he has to be a starter, but he should be brought up at some point this year. I think you're going to see a couple more guys. I believe the Cubs, whether it's because they're cheap and they're just lying to us, or B, it's because they honestly do believe in their farm system. I do believe the Cubs think that their farm system could help them become
I agree.
Caliber team. I think that they honestly believe that. And that's why you're not seeing them go out and sign all these guys. Yeah. And we know, Sean, we've heard about this farm system for the last, 4 years now? I mean, basically since they started dumping guys like Rizzo and Bryant and Baez, they've been talking about all the talent they've acquired, how some of these guys are going to make major impacts on this team. Well, now is better time than ever because, like I said, the chances that Kyle Tucker is a one-year rental are probably pretty high.
Yeah, I really, really hope not. But Nazir Mule, really quick, he underwent successful Tommy John surgery, and he was back with the Cubs last year, so it probably slowed his development just a tad.
Yeah, he was on fire before that. Yeah. He had to have that surgery. He looked absolutely amazing. He was hit 99 consistently. That's a kid I think is going to be very good for this team at some point.
Yeah, and he recovered in 9 months. He was throwing again and made his pro debut last year. So This kid will be back, and I did stack up on his baseball cards, so I'm hoping he's good. Him and Jefferson Rojas.
There's not a player who you have not stacked up on this. I know you have Matt Shaw over there. I know you have PCA over there. I know you had Amaya. I know you have the Cubs.
I do have every Cubs minor leaguer. I love my Cubbies. Yes, and Brandon, we talked about Amaya just a little bit ago. We do both think that he could be an amazing player.
At least really good. At least really good. I mean,
we'll have to see
I don't know. Good, yes.
We'll have to see what their plan is moving forward. And here, when it comes to Ballesteros, I really think that Ballesteros is going to be more of a DH first baseman replacement. I don't know how much catching he's going to be doing for the Cubs long term. It's something that we'll keep an eye on. I'm also stacked with his baseball cards. The Venezuelan sensation. They got to find a way to get that. They got to find a way to get that bat in the lineup at some point, man. That Ballesteros is an absolute beast, man. You talk about a guy who sees the ball better than anybody in the Cubs organization right now. It's that kid. He hits everything. He's amazing. And Sean, they've also said that his defensive catching metrics are getting better as well. Now, I'm not saying that maybe they're probably not good enough for him to be like a full-time catcher in baseball, but they definitely said it's getting better. I don't think it's the likes of like Kyle Schwarber. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's the point where they're like, there's no chance in hell this guy ever plays catcher in baseball like Kyle Schwarber. I don't think it's going to be that bad. When it comes to Nazir Mule, will he be a dual threat, Brandon? I don't know. I know the Cubs were using him that way in the minor leagues, but I guess, kind of like Ohtani, we'll see how he recovers from his torn UCL that he had and see what the Cubs plan is for him. Being a two-way player is a tough thing to do, man. It's no easy feat.
And you know how much it hurts the Dodgers, guys. Do you guys understand how much it hurts the Dodgers to not have that guy in the rotation? Like, they want to put Ohtani in that rotation so bad, because he could be a sub 3.5 ERA pitcher for the rest of his career. But the question I think the Dodgers ask themselves is how much are you going to lose offensively if he starts pitching full time again? And now with the staff that they have, the rotation they have, I don't think they're willing to lose that bat.
Dude, it was the other day. The Dodgers were down. It was Ohtani bobblehead day, and the crowd starts chanting Ohtani, Ohtani, Ohtani. First pitch gone.
He's amazing. He's amazing. Really I honestly believe, guys, that he's going to be in the conversation with Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan. I mean, all these guys we've talked about, all the greats in sports, the people who changed the sport. I think Ohtani already is in that conversation. He may have cement himself as the best athlete ever to play sports at some point in his career. I mean, the guy is absolutely phenomenally amazing. And he's fun to watch. Whether you like the Dodgers or not, I absolutely despise the Dodgers. Anybody who watches this podcast knows that. But you can't not like Ohtani. He's amazing. He's amazing. He's absolutely amazing.
The Cubs had some visitors yesterday. Our boys, DJ and Cole,
saw that.
There at Wrigley, enjoying it. Cole had his baby, or DJ had his baby with him in the booth. That was awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's always nice to see all those guys out in Chicago, man. The same as the Bears games when you see the Cubs out there rooting on the Bears. It shows how close-knit the sports community is in Chicago. I absolutely love it. That DJ Moore and Cole Kmet are two of my favorite Bears. So it was cool to see that yesterday when they showed
this up a little bit ago. But this guy's loving Bears football too.
Yeah, and look at that. Look what jersey he's wearing, guys.
Yeah, buddy. Anything else before Cubs? Really quick, Cubs got 2 more versus the Padres. Then they stay at home for 3 against the Rangers before they have a day off and head to Chavez Ravine out in Hollywood to take on the LA Dodgers.
The anything else I got is hopefully when I'm talking to you at this time next week, the Cubs haven't lost like 4 in a row, because that's a very strong possibility with the schedule they got coming up. Hopefully they're still at around that 500 mark.
And today's going to be a tough one, guys. Don't be surprised if it's low hit, low hit ball game for the Cubs, because Pivetta is good, man.
Yeah, he's legit.
Really good.
Like I said, guys, if I was a betting man, I hate to say this because I'm a huge Cubs fan and I obviously want them to win every game. But just with the ebbs and flows of baseball, how it almost seems like every time a good team wins, they lose the next game when 2 good teams are playing each other. With Pivetta pitching, I would probably put my money on the Padres. But hopefully he has a bad day and the Cubs absolutely explode. That would be awesome. They're definitely a better team at Wrigley Field than anywhere else for sure. No doubt about it.
And
maybe except for Sutter Health Field.
We play there every day.
There's not a lineup in baseball that doesn't want to play the A's at home. At home.
I'm going to tell you this, dude. When the Dodgers go there, I'm going to throw a boatload of cash on the overs.
I'm going to throw like $20 on Ohtani to hit 4 home runs in a game.
That could
just like $20.
His normal fly balls might just.
Dude, I'm sorry, guys. You know I love Seiya Suzuki. I'm a huge Cubs fan. You guys, that Oppo home run he hit in Sutter Health, that should not have been a home run in any way, shape, or form. Did you see that? When that came off the bat, when Suzuki hit that,
I thought it was a high fly ball.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a routine fly out. That's going to be caught. And then it just kept going and going, and it's such a short wall over there. It just snuck right over the top of it. But Ohtani could hit 4 of those in one game. No doubt about
100%.
it. I mean,
100%.
No doubt about it. And that's the side he pulls to. I mean, he could absolutely hit.
Oakland's going to get crushed when those games happen. Once again, hopefully the Cubbies can find a way to manufacture some runs and beat the Padres in back-to-back days and hand them their second loss in a row and their second loss of the season. And before we get out of here, one last thing, we got to pay some bills. Everybody, please remember, tell a friend, bring a friend. The 24th of April for the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears draft party live at River Street Tavern, 102 North River Street. We're raising money for charity. Chicago Bears care, and their charities. They distribute the money. We just send it in after we raise it. How are we raising this money? Well, we're holding some raffles. We're going to hold a 50-50 raffle where you can split the pot. Half will go to the charity, half can go in your pocket, or you can donate it all to charity. The choice is obviously up to you. It doesn't matter either way, but we will be raffling off this awesome Charles Tillman photo, this awesome DJ Moore photo, this awesome Dan Hampton photo. We also have some wonderful Chicago Cubs tickets. These are for the Marlins on the 12th of May, 6:40 start. This is for the 5th of May against the San Francisco Giants at Section 210, and that's also a 6:40 start. We also have a Dan Hampton autographed helmet, a DJ Moore autographed helmet, and there might just be some more prizes that show up. We just don't know because I'm still looking to add great things so we can continue to raise money for charity and help out the people less fortunate than us.
And real quick, Crooked Commish, we will, maybe not today, but we will definitely get a watch party for Cubs. We got plenty of season left here. We'll find a way to do it. We just have to figure out how exactly all that works, how we're going to make that work. But we will have a watch party for the Cubs at some point. You will definitely be there, Crooked. No doubt about it.
Yeah, we actually have to I'm actually leaving a little bit early before the Cubs game is over today. So I will probably be listening to the 7th, 8th, and 9th in my vehicle and not catching it on TV. Or I'll catch the end at River Street Tavern, 102 North River Street, where we'll be heading to watch the Final Four with a big group of us just a little bit later on this afternoon. So if anyone's in the neighborhood, drop on in, come see us. I'm sure we'd love to see you, put some comments to some faces. Until next week, we want to thank everybody, Crooked Commish, Breaking News, Bruce, Elizabeth, Brandon, Trax.
Ant Mass was in here, Sean.
Ant Mass. Thank you all for spending a little time with us on Saturday. Really quick show note. Kyle and I are kicking around the idea of kicking the show back 1 hour. Kyle works late on Friday night, so he needs his extra hour of beauty sleep in the morning. So
how do you think I do this show?
We're thinking about kicking it back to noon, and and that would also allow us to have our show and lead up to afternoon 1:20 starts for the Chicago Cubs. Like if we did that today, we'd be running right into first pitch. But until next week, I think look out. We will put it on the flyer, and we'll put a special announcement switching the time to 12 noon. Until next week, everybody. Breaking news: Bruce is in the house. Kyle's in the house. Peace and love. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Yeah, look out for us Monday on the Hallis Hall Hangover, guys.
Yes. Oh, yes. Hallis Hall Hangover Monday. We'll have some exciting stuff. What we're going to do, I don't know, but I'm sure it'll be fun.
I've got some ideas, Sean. I've got some ideas.
Oh, boy. Everybody hold on to your helmets now.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Stay safe, guys, as always.
Have a good day.
Stay safe out there. Thank you all for the support. We love you back for it. Appreciate y'all. Peace and go Cubbies.